You are listening to Unified Through Chronic and Mental Illness with your hosts, Angie Roberts and Kimberly Murphy. Please be advised that some of the topics of this podcast can be triggering and sensitive in nature.
Hey everyone, welcome to Unified and part 2 of our Toxic Relationship series with Karleigh Saunders. We continue the conversation discussing issues that arise while requiring respect from an abusive person.
Demanding respect is your right. It is not a privilege. It's not a, oh, do I have permission, no. It's either you respect me or you're out. Whether that's friends, family, children that are under the age, that are adult children are the only ones exempt from that because, kids can be kids. I've got siblings. I've raised kids my whole life. Kids are brats. But like, if you demand respect and someone refuses to, then that's not a healthy relationship. Whether it's platonic, friendship.
Most abusers, if you demand respect, they'll go off on you.
Yep. And they don't like it.
Yeah, it's like you've just done the worst thing to them ever,
And that's kind of what I found in, I have to be very careful how I talk about this. That's what I found in my last relationship that I was in, is that towards the end, and I by any means, like, I am a completely different person than I was then. And so I was definitely not at the level then that I am now. But I started to call him out on things, and I started to want to have these conversations, and I started to open up and started to be like, you know what? I really don't like how you talk to me that way. It's really not fair that you don't help me doing the housework. It's really not fair that you yell at me for doing these things. For example, something he did is that he would, if I did not make him lunch that day, he would never look at me and say, why didn't you make me lunch to take to work? It would just be like, well, I went hungry because I didn't have time to go get anything to eat because I didn't have a lunch. And so then I'd pack him a lunch. Yeah. Grown man.
Aggressive. Oh my goodness.
And then I would pack him a lunch, and then I'd find that lunch that I packed sitting in the car 5 days later.
Oh, wow.
Food rotting, didn't touch it. And so I would have a conversation and I'd be like, okay, like, this needs to change. Like, I don't want you to come in here talking about, because that bugs me. Like, as your partner, I want to make sure that you are taken care of and that you're eating. So if I do not make you a lunch and you choose not to eat, please don't come home and put that on me. And so, in the moment I would bring that up, it would turn into yelling and screaming and insults.
And it was
every
all
time.
Your fault.
Yep, 100%. Of course it was my fault. It's not like he's a grown man who's capable, of putting, peanut butter on bread, but whatever.
Right.
But that's
the yelling is like a total intimidation tactic. That's all that is.
Yep, 100%. And that I will say very, very, very tentatively as far as it being an intimidation tactic. It is definitely, yes, it's something to get under your skin and to test your boundaries and see what you'll put up with. But it can also be a sign that it's going to escalate even more. Because that was what had happened in that relationship. I chalked it up to the fact that I was a yeller. I grew up in a yelling household, and he loved to remind me of that. And so I put all the blame on me for how much we yelled in our relationship. And eventually, and after I started really sticking up for myself in these ways, that was when it went from yelling at me from across the room to yelling at me from 2 inches in my face.
Oh my
to
God.
busting in and breaking the bathroom door because I wanted to get away so I could put my shoes on and leave the house. Like, it escalates. Never, ever, ever, ever under any circumstances say, I know he'd never hit me.
You don't know.
You don't know. Without a shadow, and that's why, it's the exact same thing how, you never want to tell a child, oh, there's no way that they did that to you. He's your grandpa. He would never do that. We would never tell a child that. Well, if you do, you need to, go get help. But, you'd never tell a child that. Because you never want to have your child think that what someone's doing is okay because they're someone close to you. And it's the same thing with us. Never, ever, ever get too sucked into, no, they love me too much to hit me. And that's not taking away, again, verbal abuse is still abuse. Even if he never leaves a bruise on you, you are still being abused. But they reach a point where what they've done is not enough. Because the words, because they can't break you down anymore, because it's like levels, right? You can only do so much to get someone to a level that low. And when you dehumanize someone so much and your aggression no longer works, your yelling no longer works, your degradation no longer works, the next best thing is you become their punching bag. And I don't say that flippantly. That's legitimately what happens. Will every relationship turn out that way? No. But you can never assume. I read this analogy today, and it was the best thing ever. And it wasn't necessarily in, this context, but it was fitting. And it was about a bunch of men getting mad or, just getting each other hyped up and angry because a woman crossed the street instead of walking by them. And, it's not fair, whatever. And she's like, you know what? I don't know what snakes are poisonous. Some are, some aren't. But until I know which ones are poisonous, I'm not about to go play with them.
Right.
And I was like, oh my gosh, that
perfect.
was so profound. And I was like, I need to go credit that girl. I need to find her on TikTok because it was so perfect. And it's the exact same thing. You don't know his stripes until he shows them.
Right.
You don't know what he's capable of until you see it in action.
Yeah, and if it's escalating, if he keeps bringing it up a notch, I mean, that's a really bad sign, I would think.
Oh, yeah. And the thing is that happens on more than one occasion is, again, they start very small. They start with pushing boundaries. For example, they push boundaries with time. That guy completely blew me off and then texted me later thinking I was going to respond. And then he immediately attacked me with, oh, are you still mad at me? So he pushed my boundary on time, didn't get a response. So then he wanted to push his boundary and see if he could get a reaction out of me to see if he would get a response.
Yeah.
And then from there, what probably would have happened is it would have started with, and again, I can't say for sure. I'm not trying to pin this guy as a bad guy of all bad guys. It's just a great example because he was an awful person. But
calling you out, awful person, if you're hearing this.
I mean,
change your ways, mister.
But like what happens from there is they continue to push boundaries. They continue to insult you surrounded by compliments. And then the compliments begin to disappear and they see how you react. And then they will take a boundary that you have particular, and this is again, not always, but it's a good example of what you will or won't do in the bedroom. And then they will talk you into this one thing, which then they will not only try to talk you into another thing, they will insult you. They will say, well, my buddy's girlfriend lets him. This happened. Why can't you just get over it? Are you scared? Why are you so scared of me? Why are you such a baby? Why aren't you doing this? Don't you want to make me happy? Don't you want to make me feel good?
Don't you love me? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
But it escalates. And then what they do after a major escalation is there is a short honeymoon period. And that's the I'm sorry. That's where they show up with roses. That's when you decide you're like, nope, I'm done. I'm out. I deserve better. That's when they show up with a good morning text. That's when they send you 5 paragraphs instead of calling you for whatever mother-loving reason, telling you how amazing you are. That is when they decide to take you out on a big romantic date. That's when they buy vacation tickets.
Right.
And then you get roped back in and you're like, well, maybe it really wasn't that bad. He can't be that bad of a guy. He just bought us tickets to Disneyland and he knows how much I love Disneyland. And he even bought me an Eeyore shirt because he knows how much I love Eeyore. There's no way he could be that bad. I'm sure
I remember, and Angie knows what I'm talking about. We know a girl who is in a relationship with someone and they had this horrible fight. And the next day she said, he was so sweet to me. He brought me back Reese's peanut butter cups and that solved it all. It was amazing to the rest of us. A peanut butter cup.
And the thing is that if peanut butter cups solve the problem, that means that had happened so many times that that's what placated her.
Yep. Yep.
And the reason that happens is because we live for, and I call them honeymoon moments. And they're the moments that we stay. They're the moments that we come back to because, again, we don't stay in abusive relationships because we like being abused.
Mm-hmm.
But these honeymoon moments become like a drug. We stick around just for one more hit. Yeah, he was mean to me today, but maybe he'll bring me flowers tomorrow. And last time he yelled at me like this, he hit the wall next to me, but he said he was sorry. He said he'd never do it again, and he even called a therapist. He said all of these things, and there's no way that... And it just escalates. And then eventually it gets to a point where a Reese's peanut butter cup solves everything, and he's amazing. Yeah. And then it reaches a point where, yeah, he gave me a black eye, but he told me he loved me this morning. And then it turns into, well, I told him I didn't want to last night, but we're together and I wanted to make him happy, so I did it anyway. And he bought me this really pretty lingerie. Mm-hmm. It just continues. And
you're selling your dignity for a peanut butter cup,
And they legitimately take away your humanity, and then they go, and then they say, man, your girls, they just don't like me. I don't know why you listen to them. Mm-hmm. I'm so nice. I went and bought you peanut butter cups. I went and bought you freaking peanut butter cups. What do you mean they weren't proud of that? I just think you need new friends. Mm-hmm. Maybe you shouldn't talk to them anymore. We'll spend, what, you have girls' night tomorrow night? They really don't like me. Why don't we stay in and watch a Disney movie?
Right. They isolate you. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
They do isolate you. And from family, too. Oh, my God. Yes.
Even the toxic friend I had was trying to do that, isolate me from all my friends. Yeah. Yeah.
And I had a friendship like that recently where I didn't realize that that's what was happening. But anytime I brought up any other friends at all, she got so mad. Mm-hmm. I'm really into fitness, and another friend and I were talking about signing up for a competition together, we're both competitive to try to, last year we had talked about it before, all the crap went down this year. We're like, why don't we sign up? We'll do it. And I was telling her about it, and she's like, how much is it to join? Can I do it? I'll do it with you. And she's not interested at all. But just because I was going to be spending time with this other person, she got so jealous. And I was like, what on earth? And it wasn't until recently that I began to put the pieces together. Mm-hmm. And it was like, oh my gosh, I can't, I let this go on for so long. Like, why?
Mm-hmm. Angie and I just went through this with someone. It was crazy.
We did.
Yeah.
I feel like they being, the abuser or the soon-to-be abuser, I feel like they seek out empaths. And they seek out those who just want to make other people happy.
Right.
And the thing, and I realized this, it hit me a few days ago, is I was always, because I put on my Tinder bio, back when I was on that disaster of a site earlier this year, I put on there, I was like, I'm an abuse recovery coach for women, and this is what I do, thinking like, oh my gosh, no one's going to want to screw with me. No one's going to want to come at me when they know this is what I do for a living.
And they came out of the woodwork.
Yep. They all came out. And I couldn't figure out, I was like, man, why do I keep attracting all these buttholes? Mm-hmm. What's going on? Well, they were coming at me because if I am willing to put my story out there and help other people, I am probably going to have such a big heart. Mm-hmm. And when you have a big heart, they can get away with a lot.
Right.
Because you're just like, man, I don't want to lose my humanity. I don't want to put all these walls up, but I want to keep myself safe. But oh my gosh, I just love it when he smiles, and I want to be the one that saves him.
That's a big part of it. That's it right there. Yeah.
That was my best friend's problem.
And it's just like, and again, and this is not in a victim blaming sense, I'm just seeing it a lot. Mm-hmm. It's just like how men pride them. It's like when men get really excited when they find a virgin, right? And they get to hook up with the virgin. So they're like, oh, I'm the one who did it, whatever, for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. And then women, what we do is we're like, no, I'm different. I'm the one who can fix him. I can do it. I can save him. Even if we don't end up together, I'm going to make him he's going to be such an amazing man because of me, because I did it. And so then it reaches like a power play because we want to be the ones, and they let us think that we're getting to them. They open up and have little moments of vulnerability to let us think that we're getting the upper hand. So that way we can get that gold medal that we want so bad to say we're the ones who fixed him. When really, they were controlling the game all along.
Mm-hmm.
They were just hiding some pieces on the board. And so that's another thing to really look out for. And well, that's a sign that you have a lot of like inner work to do. But if you end up with someone who is kind of okay with you trying to do that, or they praise you for doing that, or they begin to say, it's only because of you that nope, I don't. Maybe I'm a cynic at this point. Maybe I'm just, saying no too much, but it's just like, no, to me, that is a major sign. I don't want to be the reason you do anything.
I completely agree with you. You should never enter a relationship wanting to change somebody.
Exactly.
Never.
And
Ever.
it's like, maybe after a few months or whatever, if someone's like, you know what? I really want to pursue this thing with you and I want to grow with you. Maybe I didn't move. I want to stay, whatever. There are a few exceptions. But overall, when someone goes, oh my gosh, you cured me of my alcoholism, or I'm not doing drugs anymore and it's all thanks to you. If they're feeding your ego in a very like fairy tale way, it's because it's legitimately too good to be true.
Right. Yep.
Because it is a fairy tale. Because it ain't real.
Well, most of them don't even get to that point. They're just like, well, I'm going to do this for you. And then they, it's a couple days, maybe a week, and then they go right back to the old behavior. And they give the girl just enough to think that it's a possibility.
And it's just like, it's legitimately in your brain. And this is what's so fascinating. And whenever I say fascinating, people kind of look at me sideways. It's not that I enjoy that women go through this. I am just fascinated by the brain in trauma and recovery. When you get those moments, those honeymoon moments of where they let you think that it's happening, where they bring you those flowers, or they don't drink alcohol for a week, or they call the therapist, you get a hit just as if you got like a hit of cocaine. Like it lights up that part of your brain where you are literally addicted to that. You're addicted to that feeling and you go after it just like someone who is like, just like that stereotypical, that you saw in all the Dare movies in high school growing up, the worst case scenario druggies. That's exactly what we become. We chase that next high and we can put up with the abuse. We can put up, and that's why a lot of women stay in very physically abusive relationships, very physically aggressive. Because for two reasons. One, it's because leaving is legitimately terrifying at that point. And two, whenever anyone gives them an option, it's just, well, no, but. He can but. He said he was sorry, 2 weeks and 5 minutes ago, he said he was sorry. So maybe he'll say it again tomorrow. You chase that drug and they space those moments farther and farther and farther out until you can't even remember them anymore. But your brain wants it so bad. Your brain just wants it so bad that it says, just stay one more day.
And you think you're so in love still, which is the most complicated part of it.
I used to think that when someone was abusing you, you didn't love them, and I put all the blame on myself. I was like, well, if that's really what happened, that means I didn't love them. That means I was wrong, and I wasn't seeing things clearly. But not only is that such a toxic message to share, it's wrong. You can 100% be head over heels with the worst human on the face of the planet. You can love someone so much. And this is a fictional example, but it's such a good example. I am normally not a DC fan, but the relationship between Harley Quinn and the Joker is the perfect example.
Oh my goodness, yes.
And I'm getting shivers. And I'm getting shivers talking about this because I get very, very upset when people romanticize their relationship. When it's like, it was literally written. It was written to show how toxic abusive relationships are. And yet girls nowadays are like, I just want to find my Joker. And it's like, why do you want a mentally ill man who's going to try to murder you? Why?
Angie, I was laughing because Angie and I were just talking about this, and it is ridiculous. And I don't even know how they could have, in the Suicide Squad, how they could have decided that this was a good idea to project it as a romantic relationship. Even the guy who played the Joker was kind of disgusted with the fact that girls were going to be like looking up to him as some sort of example of what they want for a boyfriend.
Right.
So the thing with that, and again, I actually have not seen Suicide Squad. I was told it was garbage, and I am a Marvel over DC fan, and so it's just like how people talk crap about football teams. I talk crap about DC. Nothing against them. It's just what I do. But so I saw Birds of Prey, which is the sequel to Suicide Squad. And it's when Harley Quinn breaks up with the Joker and she has to heal from the trauma. She doesn't ever fully heal because she's Harley Quinn and it's a comic universe, but it's her processing everything. And she keeps having these flashbacks of what she had gone through and what she put up with. And she began to there's a scene where she really beats up on herself. She's like, how did I let myself do this? Why did I let myself do this? Maybe I did deserve it because I let it go on for so long.
Right.
And it's one of those things where it's like, she was head over heels in love with him.
Yeah.
That is why he was able to do that. It's because he knew, he manipulated her enough. He felt an initial attraction to her, and then he realized he could use her. And so, because of course he cares about nobody more than he cares about himself.
Right.
And so he used her, because he did, and that's the other part of this, is the Joker really did care about Harley. He did on some level, but he still chose to use her. He still chose to manipulate and abuse her. And the thing that I want to shout from the mountaintops is that there is nothing more accurate. Your abuser could love you. You could truly love your abuser. You could want to be with them. You could want them. They could, on some level of their mind, maybe want to be better. But wanting isn't enough. If they are not actively working, if they are not in therapy, if they are not saying, you know what, I am leaving to go work on myself, and if I heal, I will. If they are not actively in therapy on a daily basis, working on it, there's no saving that.
They have to
are
take
using
responsibility for themselves, and most of these toxic people refuse to do that.
Exactly. And I had never seen an example of that, but there is a man, I found him on TikTok, and now I follow him on Instagram, and he is an actual clinically diagnosed narcissist.
Wow.
And he's a clinically diagnosed narcissist. But what his thing is now, his username is mental healness, HEAL-ness. And what he did is he saw this, he recognized it, and he went to therapy. And so now what he does is, and he is giving, and so what he does, he gives the insight on the narcissistic's mind, in the narcissistic's brain. So he is legitimately opening the door to his mind in what he did and what narcs will do, not from a victim standpoint, but from a, yes, I did this and this is why.
Wow.
And so that's why, so he is the example, and I always hesitate sharing that example, and he even brings it up too. You don't want to think that your person is the one in a million. Don't get caught up in the, well, mine could heal. He chose to take the initiative. His wife said, I don't want this no more. I deserve better, and kicked him out. And he had to have a wake-up call, and he went and got the help. And then they ended up getting, it's a really beautiful story. But he had to make that decision himself, for himself, and no one could make it for him. And the only reason that we believe him now is because he did the work.
Right. And
If
every
work,
girl in an abusive relationship usually thinks, oh, we're going to be that couple. We're going to be the ones that are okay.
I'm going to be the one in the million. I'm going to be the one to save him because I can. Because there's nothing else because 9 times out of 10, there's nothing else in their life that was certain. And 9 times out of 10, they had to save their parent. They had to save their family. And so they have this feeling where they're like, they're not good enough if they don't save them. But it's like, oh, if I can save this one person, it proves my worth and theirs.
If my love is strong enough. Yeah.
Oh my God, yes. If I love him enough, then maybe he will. If I'm beautiful enough, maybe he will. If I try this new thing in bed, maybe he will. If I make him this dinner, maybe he will. No.
This week's mantra is, and one day, just like that, you'll rediscover your light, you'll embrace your inner warrior, you'll grab your power back, and the whole game will change. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Come back next week when we resume the conversation about trauma bonding and the effects of trauma on the brain. See you next time, and remember, we're stronger together.
Bye, guys.
Unified Through Chronic and Mental Illness can be found at anchor.fm/unified. There you can find all social media links as well as other ways to listen.